I heard you guys loud and clear. In last week's episode of Slice of Pie, you guys made it very abundantly clear that you want more Snecky. So, I will deliver that. I'm going to give you guys 100% more Snecky in every single video. In fact, Snecky will be accompanying me in every single unboxing video at this point, and will be in the background of every episode of Slice of Pie. So just note, even if you don't see this little guy, he's gonna be here because he's still adorable, and I do still love him. So, we're gonna move Snecky aside though, because I have something pretty interesting here. This is the future of PC gaming. And honestly, I am so excited that I'm getting to take a look at it. This is the Razer Huntsman V2 analog. So this is their version 2 switches, which are optical switches, which is where the Huntsman name is, analog edition, which is actually the exciting part. Now, we actually took a look at the Razer Huntsman and Razer Huntsman Mini and kind of praised them for being super responsive, even in comparison to mechanical switches. So these are a bit different though. You see, these are taking that technology a step further. It's using an analog sensor to allow you to sense the exact depth that the switch is actually being pressed. And this is amazing for a couple of reasons. You see, this allows this keyboard to work closer to a controller. I'm sure you've played a game and you just can't get your character into the right space or get them to move a certain way. Maybe just a little tiny movement would make moving along a specific area easier. This should enable that. And Razer is doing this in a couple of clever ways. You see, Razer is actually enabling a full controller remap to this keyboard. One thing I recently added to my desk in anticipation of this is my Huntsman Mini, which I've kind of been placing there just so that in case I accidentally map this keyboard into oblivion. Which shouldn't be too big of a problem because I can easily set some sort of a macro to get myself out of it, but just in case, I wanted to make sure that there is some sort of a keyboard over there that is mapped normally. Another feature of this keyboard is dual actuation points. So pressing the keyboard at one specific hardness or height specifically will trigger one action, and then another action will be triggered by pressing it harder and going down lower. Now, this is really awesome because it can actually enable functionality in games that don't have good controller functionality, such as the Fallout series, which Bethesda's Gamebryo engine is notoriously bad at accepting controllers and keyboards at the same time. Now, any game that does allow a controller and a keyboard to work simultaneously should work just fine using the other mode that we mentioned, but you are going to have to do some programming through Razer Synapse. So, that being said, I'm super excited because the future of this thing is nuts. You see, Oculus actually has this kind of setup already built into their controllers. It allows them to map your hand on the controller and how you're holding it. And this is used in a couple of different applications, such as VR chat, where you can easily do finger guns with your Oculus controllers. In fact, you can almost guarantee somebody is using an Oculus controller if they're just walking around doing finger guns everywhere. That being said, I do see this as an actual evolution of the keyboard because in many ways, this will enable types of experiences that we will not be able to replicate elsewhere. And it gets me generally excited that we're going to finally have this. And well, it's right here in front of me. So let's actually really quickly go around the box before we unbox it. So this is, as I said, Razer Huntsman Analog V2, or Razer Huntsman V2 Analog. Has Razer Chroma, Razer keyboard, switch, blurb, requirements, pass-through USB 3, also magnetic wrist rest with RGB because heck yeah. Demonstration on how the dual actuation point works. Explanation on the analog switches if you were to buy this in a store so you know the difference. Pictures of the keyboard, pictures of the keyboard, more information. All right, cool. Let's open this thing up because I'm too excited. The whole reason that I want... I moved this video up just so that I could get this. So Razer has done this with other products recently. They've made these like little tabs that just kind of pull off. And it leaves the box like unscathed. Like I do like that a lot. I think I've said that in every video that I've seen it, but. All right, ready? Oh, yes. All right, so we got documentation. Thank you for choosing Razer. We got sticker pack. And instructions, which we may have to look at. This, by the way, is the biggest Razer keyboard box I have seen in a very long time. So let's go ahead and... It's like really packed in here well. Okay, so that was there. I just kind of held cables down. When we get this out of here, I am going to talk about the cables for a second because they are kind of interesting. Oh, okay. That was all of it. And then there's the, oh, that's a heavy wrist rest. Okay. So this is a heavy keyboard. Not really hard foam on either side. Plastic covering the main body. All right. There we go. So, ooh, it's my first time actually getting to touch this dial. I really do like this media key. These are dedicated media keys right here. Not bad at all. I actually really like that. I bet you these are remappable too. And let's actually really quickly open up that. Feels very nice. My old wrist rest did wear out from my Black Widow a while ago. But if I remember correctly, they just kind of, there we go. And that is magnetically attached, much like it was last time with the Black Widow. But there is RGB that goes around this whole thing. So let's actually get this to where I would actually like it. And whoa, that is different. I could get used to that though. So for those who never watched my Huntsman video, I actually like clickier keyboards, but this is different. These are linear, of course, but there's resistance to them. Obviously, to like really make that analog work, you have to have more resistance than the normal key. But you hear that, right? It doesn't sound bad. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. I do think that the analog is going to be just fine. All right, let's kind of like flip it around. It feels like there's a metal plate probably running along the top here, and then this is the plastic PET or whatever body. Nice contact, like wireless contacts for the for the wrist rest. Now this is what I was gonna bring up about this, because I read this and I was like, oh, that's crazy. You need both of these if you're going to use all the functionality of this keyboard. This is a USB-C and a USB-A. Or USB-B. Yeah, you have to use two different types of USB in order to get this thing to work. And luckily, I have USB-C ports on all of my gaming PCs now, but this would be one of those things that could easily make it difficult to actually use this keyboard. If you're rocking something older that doesn't have USB-C, well, you're gonna be SOL, because it is required for some of the functionality. And in order to do the pass-through, you need this one, which I think you need both levels of power to do the full RGB effect. So yeah, this thing's kind of interesting. First impressions are interesting, you know, like I could easily get used to this. I had a linear keyboard in the past with Razer Oranges, but these are not bad. Now, here's a question. There we go. Oh, how interesting is that? These are Razer Blacks. They are currently uncolored. Interesting. All right, I'm excited. I'm gonna go ahead, plug it in, play with it, tell you what I think about it, and then I'm gonna do a bit of a demonstration in Unreal where I'm going to show you how to set up the analog functions. I am excited. All right, guys, as promised, I'm going to show you Unreal using the keyboard. We're going to go ahead and just create a simple, basic third-person project. We're going to do this because, honestly, this is pretty much how most people would want to actually see these kind of keyboard implemented. And so we're just going to go ahead and let that load on up. And honestly, like, I'm thinking we're just gonna have to add a couple lines of code to make this work. And yeah, so let's go ahead. We got our character, we got a camera, we've got everything here. And hit play. So this is under normal keyboard and mouse configuration here. Oculus being a pain in the butt. There we go. All right, so as you can see, you can move just fine. It is not a problem. So that is just default. So now let's go ahead, pop on out of this and grab the Razer Snap software. And we can go ahead and switch it to analog mode, which I created this cool little nifty key shift mode for. And so from there, we're gonna key shift, and now, well, would you look at that? No lines of code. No issues whatsoever. That's right, Unreal Engine natively supports this out of the box, which is a big thing because a lot of indie games do run off of Unreal Engine for, well, how free it is. All right, so it's been a little bit since I unboxed it, and honestly, I love this keyboard. There are a couple of sticking points and growing pains that will come with analog keyboards becoming mainstream. I would not be surprised if in a few years' time, analog keyboards are the high-end gaming keyboards that everybody is seeking out. I do believe that Razer adopting them is a big first step, and once Corsair and then Logitech also do it, we will see this really take off. And the biggest thing about this is that it really is a game changer in the games that it works. We tested a lot of games, and I'm going to be doing a separate video on a game-by-game basis on whether or not it works. But the games that it works best in are not necessarily the ones you would expect. They were actually a lot of first-person shooters. That little granular amount of control ends up actually being a huge game changer. And it's actually absolutely amazing, like, what does and doesn't support it. When we popped into Unreal, it was pretty simple to work with, but not all Unreal games support it because, well, not all Unreal games are coded the same way as the way that I showed. And either way, it's just interesting to see that this is not something that's difficult to support. Some of the games we even tested are old, several years old, like over a decade old, and they still work with it. And it's absolutely amazing to see that this technology has a place to go and a place to grow. That being said, I would actually recommend getting the one-hand keyboard that Razer provides, because technically speaking, the full keyboard experience doesn't really contribute that well to an overall gaming experience. You really only need the W, A, S, and D keys, and that's about it. Now, we did create a custom driving profile that makes it better for driving games and more realistic and easier to control, but it's still not something that the one-handed keyboard couldn't do. And more importantly, by having the one-handed keyboard, you could actually do something a bit more affordable, like say have a Huntsman Mini and that one-handed keyboard that you could also then use as a number pad and kind of, you know, compensate for the shortcomings that the Mini has. And the Mini, if you never saw the video, is one of my favorite keyboards that I've ever obtained. It's actually on my desk next to the Huntsman, plugged into the same computer, because I just needed to make sure that I had a backup when I'm messing around with the specialized profiles. And we did create a lot of those, and we'll talk about them more in the video about it. Overall, I like it. It is awesome, and it is definitely a glimpse of the future. But until it's natively supported, it is definitely going to be one of those things that's a bit difficult to recommend. I mean, if you really want to get in and get that early adopter tax out, it is awesome. The keys feel different. They feel like the triggers on the back of a controller, and they have a different sound, and they are linear, but I honestly do like the keyboard. But that's gonna wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe. I've got Snicky with me. It's been sitting in my lap this whole time. Yeah. I don't know how to end videos. Click anything, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Wolfie and Snicky out.